Well, there's been no team in the NFL better at home this season than the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals have won and covered in all 7 of their home games, and in their last 4 home games, they've scored 41 points or more. They're 5.5-point home favorites on Sunday against division rival Baltimore, 44.5 the total on BETDAQ. Now, the Ravens desperately need this game. They lost to New England last week. They were blown out by New England last week, as a matter of fact. So they need to beat the Bengals on Sunday and hope that either Miami or San Diego loses to make the playoffs. Otherwise, they will miss the playoffs just 1 year after winning the Super Bowl. It's a meaningful game for Cincinnati as well. Not as big as it is for Baltimore. The Bengals, after all, have clinched the AFC North, but with a win on Sunday, they could, emphasis on could, still lock up a first-round bye in the playoffs. They would need New England to lose to the Buffalo Bills and the Patriots a double-digit favorite in that game, so that's not very likely, which is why we say this game is a little bit more important for Baltimore. But last week's game was really important for Baltimore as well, and as we said, they were blown out by New England, so I don't think just based on level of importance we should lean towards the Ravens here. Cincinnati will be trying to win this game. They will be playing their starters. This is not a situation like the Kansas City Chiefs where they're locked into their seeding, so they might sit some of their better players. This is a game between division rivals. I think it's going to be very competitive. Baltimore won 20-17 in overtime back in Week 10, but that game was in Baltimore. And we talked about how good the Bengals have been at home this season, especially offensively. You might have heard me say they've scored 41 points or more in their last 4 home games. That's astounding considering what they've done in their other games and last season and the year before that. I mean, this Bengals offense is widely viewed as the weak link on the team. The defense is excellent, 5th in yards allowed, 6th in points allowed, but the offense unreliable and inconsistent. And it's why I have trouble getting behind the Bengals as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. 8 times this season, the Bengals offense has been held to 21 points or fewer. So any way you slice it, they are slowed down frequently. But as we said, they've been a different group at home recently. So what will we see on Sunday? Are we going to see the Cincinnati offense we've seen recently at home, including last week against the Minnesota Vikings when they put up 42 points against the Vikings' 31st ranked defense? Or are we going to see the Cincinnati offense that we saw Week 10 in Baltimore when they managed only 17 points in their 20-17 loss to these Ravens? My guess is it'll be somewhere in between that. I do think the Bengals are going to be able to score more than they did the last time they faced the Ravens, but I'd be very, very surprised if they exceeded, say, 24 to 27 points in this game. That's one of the reasons my favorite bet here is the under. 44.5 the total on BETDAQ, and I think that's a little bit high for these two teams. Baltimore has been terrible on offense throughout the season. They now rank 29th in total offense, 26th in points scored, and we mentioned the Bengals playing very well on defense, 5th in points scored, 6th in yards allowed. So I look for the Ravens to have trouble scoring in this game. They have trouble scoring in most of their games, but I do think that Baltimore defense is going to hold up here. You know, I know they allowed 40-plus New England last week, but aside from that New England game and their Week 1 game against the Denver Broncos when they allowed 49, the Ravens have been very, very good on defense this season. They rank 9th in both yards allowed and points allowed, despite those 2 games we mentioned, the Patriots game and the Broncos game. So I do think the Baltimore defense is going to be able to slow down the Bengals in this game, and I think the Bengals probably going to be able to pull out a win. The 5.5 points make me uncomfortable here, and early in the week I had a Baltimore lean, but I've backed off that a bit. Believe my favorite bet here, as I said, is under 44.5, so maybe Cincinnati money line under 44.5, the way to go here.